Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show, a podcast by SaaStock. Here we interview SaaS founders from around the world who've been there and done that, as they share the ins and outs of how they built their businesses, their operations, their path to securing investment, and more. Our mission with the podcast is to help you, the founder, learn how to scale your SaaS, maintain your well-being, and navigate the complexities of this ever-changing industry. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, and together we'll explore the good, the bad, and the ugly in the journey to SaaS success. Welcome back to the SaaS Revolution Show. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, CEO, founder of SaaStock. Delighted to be joined today by Aytekin Tank, who is the CEO and founder of Jotform. Welcome, Aytekin. How are you doing?
Hello, Alex. Great to be on your show.
Yeah, good to have you on the podcast. I know you said you listen to the podcast, so great to have a listener on. And obviously, this first time that you're coming on. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in Ankara, Turkey.
Okay, and where, in terms of my Turkish geography, is this by the coast? Are you more central? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Ankara is actually central. It's the capital of Turkey. Mm-hmm. It's in the middle of the country. So, it's not one of those places where you would really go as a tourist to visit. Mm-hmm. You would probably go to Istanbul.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, our biggest office is actually here in Ankara.
Okay.
So we have 7 offices around the world. Like the biggest ones are Ankara and San Francisco. And basically the research and development is more in Turkey, and our marketing sales is in the US. And I'm usually here.
Okay.
In Ankara.
There we go. I've already learned something, and for some reason I thought or assumed Istanbul was the capital of Turkey, but there goes my geography sort of knowledge. So good to know that. How many people live in Ankara? Because Istanbul is like 18-20 million or something like that. It's a lot, right?
I think it's the second biggest city of Turkey, and I believe it's around 5 million population. So it's a quite big city.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Well, Aytekin, obviously, thanks for joining today. We've got a super story to get out of you. Obviously, you've built an amazing business in Jotform, and we'll go into that from the founding story right through to where it is today and some of the things that you've done to kind of get you there. Let's start off by getting to know a little bit more about you. So we'll ask the question, who is Aytekin Tank?
Yeah, I'm a father. I'm a founder of a Bootstrapped company that has grown to 25 million users and in 18 years. I'm an author. I wrote a book called Automate Your Busy Work, and it became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. I'm a father of 3 children, like 9, 7, and 1-year-old. So I'm quite busy. So yeah, and now big company and 3 children. I'm a quite busy person.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. You need to. Well, you've got the automation for the business. You wrote the book. Is there automation for parenting? Are you working on that one?
No, there's no automation for parenting. Okay. It's just a lot of patience. It's patience, but they're also so much fun. It's just they make you younger. They're great to be around. So it's you become children with them, but sometimes you have to be patient as well. So it's a challenge as well.
I also, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I have a 7 and a 9-year-old, but I don't have the 1-year-old. The 7 and the 9 keep me busy as it is, especially when you're the founder of a business. And is Jotform your first business? You've been running it since 2006, so. What is that? 18 years, right? Was there anything pre-Jotform?
So before Jotform, I studied computer science, and then I worked for a developer in New York for an internet media company. But while I was a student and while I was working full time, I actually created like 4 or 5 different products on the site. Some of them were just open source. Some of them were like I was selling them, but never really serious, never had a great like a growth curve. But I learned a lot from those products. So I always recommend before you jump in, if you're planning to become an entrepreneur, before you jump in, just start building your product on the side, and you will learn so much. You will learn about engineering, you will learn about sales, marketing, customer support, all those things. Like if you just jump in and if you try to learn them all while you are just also trying to make a living, it's just so much harder and so much stressful. So during those times, I probably during those 7 years, I learned so much about product development, sales, marketing, customer service, all those kind of things, and it just helped me have it like a much more smoother ride when I became an entrepreneur.
Makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about, or learn about the founding story of Jotform then. So 2006 is, I guess, officially when Jotform came to be. Tell us why you decided to build this and go into, I guess, the founding story.
So between 2000 and 2005, I was working for this media company in New York. And one of my duties was, we had over 100 websites. And one of my duties was to help our editors with forms. And they needed all kinds of forms, like contact forms, surveys, questionnaires. They run contests, they needed payment forms. There was I didn't even know there would be so many types of forms people would need. And while I was building them, I was kind of bored. I was this is an HTML. I can just really do great stuff, but just this is kind of waste of my time. How can I tried to find a product that can actually take away from me, use a product to do all these things, but I couldn't find a good product. There was SurveyMonkey, but it was only for surveys. There were a few products, but they weren't very good. So at that point, I decided that if I quit my job, if I start my business, that's what I would do. I would actually do the forms because I learned so much about them. So that knowledge, previous industrial knowledge, is really useful. That's another thing I would always recommend. If you know the pain, if you know what people need, it's just much easier to build it. So 2005, I actually had a friend, we decided, okay, we are gonna, found a company, we are gonna start our own business. But he was 10 years older than me. And right at the moment that we were just gonna start our business, he told me, hey, my accountant actually told me that it has to be 51% versus 49%. And until that point on, we were always thinking 50-50. And that was kind of a vote of non-confidence. So, I thought that, and that was kind of an ultimatum. I didn't feel that's a good start for a long-term, co-founder, being a co-founder in the long term. So, we decided to split the ways. But that was great because he was older than me. He was much more experienced, and he actually wanted to do this custom development, building website, building products for other companies. But I wanted to build my own product. Building a product just excited me much more. Seeing people using my product, just excited me so much. Even when I was a student, I would just create open source products and give it away, and I would enjoy seeing people use them. So that's what we did, and that actually allowed me to give 100% working on Jotform, 100%. And that's what I did. For 8 months, I started building Jotform, and in 2006 February, I launched Jotform. And I think it's also very important to launch your product when you are starting out, because when you're just starting out, nobody hears about you. And if you don't have this launch that can get people excited about your product, that's it's not success. You're not going to get success because you got 1,000 people to use your product during the launch day. But it's a good start. It's a good way to get links to your website. It's a good way to be known. It's a good way to it's also very motivational.
Yeah.
So at that time I used my age was it was very different. So 2006, there was not many like drag and drop tools. So what I did was I didn't even put like this registration form on my website. Just you could when you went to jotform.com, you would just see this form builder, and you didn't have to sign up. You would just go and drag and drop fields into your form, instant edit your fields, and then create your form. And that kind of, and I started emailing all these like different like niche companies. This is a different kind of product. Like this is a showcase of what can be done with like all these like different kind of new JavaScript technologies that were coming out, like new JavaScript libraries that were coming out. So that actually excited people. They wrote about JotForm, and that was a good bump in the beginning. But I also like had this like completely open public forum where I supported my product over a public forum. So people would see that like I was constantly updating the product. When they ask for something, I would just answer them quickly. And like if they reported a bug, I would just say it's fixed now. You can go and try it. And I also made it completely free during the first year. Right? Until 2007 March, it was completely free. And I'm a really big believer of free, because when you provide a product for free, first of all, you actually let people to try your product without like worrying about like, am I gonna like lose money? Am I gonna like even like enter in the credit card information can actually, cut down like so many people who might actually become in the long term become a paid user. So free it makes it easier for people to start using your product. It's also people wanna, when they get something for free in the long term, like they want to actually pay back. Yep. Like they feel like they need to pay back. And it's a goodwill. You create goodwill with people. And, it also creates more, word of mouth. Like people actually talk about it more, about the free product, because it's, very easy to recommend it to your friends. So there are many reasons, like it's a great way to, but for me, the most important reason was to be able to get as much feedback as possible, because I wanted to move fast. And to be able to move fast, I needed to get like all these feedbacks. And right out of the gate, like I was receiving all these feedback, like, I didn't have the automated emails. Like people wanted to, receive an email with their data, for example, when they fill the form. And people, needed all these different kinds of features, and I was constantly receiving them. So what happened was that because of the free version, by the time it was like March 2007, I already had like 15,000 users. And just when I launched the paid version, like a premium version, it has new features. It's like the free version was limited to 100 submissions per month. It's still that way. We still have the free version. It's still limited to 100 per month. Right at that moment, like we had like 500 subscribers during that year. During 2007, we added like 500 subscribers, and I started very slowly. So it was all me during the first year, and 2006 September I hired my first employee, and then 2007 it was literally for the first 5 years. I added like one employee every year. Like we were, by the time it's like 50 year, we were like 5 employees. So it's very, very slow start, but it's completely bootstrap. And it's great to have a bootstrap company. Even though it's slow, you have all the independence. Yeah. You have all the freedom to whatever you choose to do. You don't have to answer to investors. You don't have to answer. You don't have to like make quarterly plans. You can just play for the long term, and I love that, and I still love what I did because of that. It's the freedom. Yeah. I think many SaaS founders actually started their companies because they wanted to have that freedom, and bootstrapping is great for that.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that quite a bit there. I was just thinking, so obviously today you're still 100% bootstrapped. Is that correct?
Exactly. Still 100% bootstrapped, still free.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, do you ever look back at the conversation with that potential co-founder who was asking for 51% and think like, what if I gave that 51% to him? Because like now, do you own 100% of the business yourself?
It's hard to say what would happen, if maybe we would have moved much faster as two founders, because he was very experienced. He was like a systems engineer at a large telecommunications company. So he was actually very good. So he would have helped a lot. But the thing is, he didn't want to do product. Yep. So it's like, right at that moment, like we didn't actually have the same vision for the company. It could have slowed us down as well, because we would actually divide our attention between a product and all these like custom development services. Yeah. So it's hard to say, but I was okay. I mean, there's this this belief that you have to have a co-founder. I don't think that's like you don't need to have a in fact, unless you have like the best, really someone you really trust that will, for many years, probably you should probably know that person for a long time. Unless you have that, it's much more risky to have a co-founder, because breakups with co-founders is one of the biggest ways many businesses fail. So I still have my 100%, and I still choose the long term focus. Just play for the long term and keep it. I'm also not a very big risk taker. Yeah. So it's just I had a rule that I always had 1 year salary for all my employees. During this 18 years, I never broke that. Just continue to, and because of that, I never had layoffs. Yeah. I had a few times I had this freezes, hiring freezes, maybe 6 months hiring freezes, because we were so good at recruiting that we were actually hiring too many people, and then I was actually going up that limit, that threshold, to have 1 year salary for all my employees in the bank, and we would stop hiring and just keep it slow that way. And I've seen competitor after competitor getting all these investments and then just leaving their companies, and then the new founders, new owners of the companies, just stopping developing these products. And it's kind of, it's as a business, it's good if our competitors stop innovating, but it's also disheartening to see so many great products just getting abandoned that way.
Yeah. Makes sense. And so fast forward to today, can you give us a picture of what the company looks like, some data that you can share about the company?
So it's 600 employees, 7 different cities, offices in 7 different cities. So what happened is that as we have grown during the last 5-6 years, we actually also, we started all product, SaaS service, product-led growth. But what happened was that more and more bigger companies actually wanted to use Jotform as a team. So we developed this enterprise version. As we have started developing the enterprise version, we started growing a sales team, which required us to have offices in we have an office in Sydney, London, in Vancouver, so in different countries as well. That's why we actually grow to become multi-city company. So, and 30% of our revenue is coming from enterprise now. That was 0 5 or 6 years ago. That was 0. So that was great. Starting with a product that's SaaS service, and then going to the sales model, sales team model is actually great, because you have everything. You have all these existing customers that can actually buy the enterprise version, and you have a product that's proven and really good for enterprise, but you have to complete all these different things compliances and things like that. So other than that, we have 25 million users. So as I said, we have a free version that has a huge user numbers, but we are not enhancing the revenues. Yeah, that's one of the things that I prefer.
It's just a personal preference.
That's one of the things that we can do as a private, bootstrap company. Right?
Yeah, right. No, exactly, fair play. But we can certainly get a picture of how big and potentially, you know, what sort of revenue that you may be doing. And you go.
One interesting number I can give is like we always had this 50% revenue growth rate, and we still have that. That's very interesting. And we actually, if we didn't develop the enterprise version, we would actually lose that. We would probably drop down to like 30%. But then, you know, the enterprise came to help, and we still have that 50% growth rate today.
Awesome. Congrats. Okay, so now obviously you're a 600-person company, but obviously when you were building and growing in the early days, when you got to 15 people, you identified that there was a challenge, a problem within the business, where there was some individual projects going on and people were not operating in the same way as when it was with 5 people in one room. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, that challenge and then the change that you made and how you came across that change and what that looks like today and how it's working for the business.
Yeah, this is a quite interesting story. So in the early days of Jotform, I had, like, as I mentioned, like, you know, we had a very slow growth. And as a result, like, we had a really friendly environment. And we would, when we were like 5 employees, when we were at the point of 5 people, like, we would actually spend the whole day together. Like, we had this small office space and we had a whiteboard and we would discuss stuff and we would go to lunch together. And we would always talk about Jotform. And we were really good. Like, we were always innovating, coming up with great ideas, and we were doing great. So move forward, you know, like when it was around 2014, we were like, at this point, we were like 15 people, but we weren't doing as good as before. We weren't innovating as much. We weren't such a great team. And I wonder why that was the case. Like, I didn't know the reason, but right at that moment, I was also reading Eric Rice's blog before he wrote Lean Startup. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he mentioned in that book was the cross-functional teams that can actually, like, cross-functional teams that work on the project together and to build the project and just start small. And I actually inspired by that. And I also started looking at the early days. And I remembered that when we were a 5-person team, we had a single project, we had a single team in a single room, we had a whiteboard, we would just discuss this project all the time, and we lost that. Like, when we had 15 people, everybody was working on different things. And that's not very productive, because whatever you do, if you want to do a good job, you have to, like, discuss it. You have to think about it. Like, if you are working with a designer that you can constantly get feedback. You can constantly give feedback to the designer, or you can just change things constantly with the designer together. So when we were 5 people, like, we had a designer, we had like front-end engineers, we had back-end engineers. I was the business person. So we would constantly try things, execute what works, and, you know, reverse course when things didn't work. And our designers were constantly giving us new ideas and designing new things, and we would implement them. So I wanted to redo that. And right at this moment, like, we were moving to a new office space, and this was much larger. And so I worked with an architect, and we designed these small rooms that could only hold up to 6 people. And they had, like, whiteboards. So when we were 50 people, we moved to these new offices, and we split into 3 teams. And this actually worked well. Small teams, single project, working together. And this worked really well. And this also allowed us to grow as a company, because continue to be productive. Because one of the worries is that as you grow, can you keep the same culture you have before? can you keep being productive as before? Can you continue to have those like great? Can you build a great product? Can you continue to build a great product? And the way to do that is to, for us, it was that small cross-functional teams, and that's today, like we have over 100 teams at Jotform, and we are kind of a company of small teams. And the way we grow is when we need to when we need to do something very important, we will either just give it to a single team and say, this is the big thing we need to do. For example, in Jotform, we saw that a lot of people were doing like signatures. They needed to sign documents. So we decided, okay, we need to build a Jotform sign product, a e-signature product for Jotform. So we gave that to a team, and then we gave them time. And they were like a startup building a product from scratch, and that's what they did. They kept building it, and then they released an MVP, and then they got feedback from users, and we released Jotform Sign, and it became a successful product. And when we need to grow our company, what we do is basically we'll take all these people from existing teams, like experienced people, and we'll create new teams, and we'll join these senior people with new graduates, people come from other companies. And because we have these existing senior employees as the team leads, they continue to become successful, and we continue to grow without losing our culture. And it's been great so far. And I think that's one of the ways that we were able to continue to become successful, even though we have grown to over 600 employees.
Awesome. I mean, thanks for sharing that. And I'm pretty sure the first time I've heard of this structure at that scale I haven't spoken to, let's say, huge amounts of people that are running 600-person organizations, a good few, but probably the first time, certainly that I can recall, of having like 100 teams within the 600-person organization, and obviously clearly working. So very innovative, and would love to hear more maybe from the audience if people are running similar things and so on. In terms of the organization hierarchy, then, if you have 100 teams, how does like reporting work? Like who oversees the teams? I'm assuming you're not looking over all 100 or certainly directly.
Yeah, it's important to have a flat structure as much as possible, but we also have like VPs. So we have over 30 product teams. So for example, within Jotform, each product team is responsible. They are the owner of different features. They are the owner of different products. So, and from these small teams, we have groups. So some groups have like 3 teams. Some groups have 5 teams. So groups actually also have these leaders. They are sometimes like technical, but they are sometimes more business oriented or product management oriented. So depending on the different kind of things that's been done, different kind of group leaders are there. But usually there's this like, as people get experience, this also creates for them a way to build their career. So it's a way for people to, get promoted to higher levels. And that's it. Like above that, there are VPs, different departments have different VPs, and so it's about, the teams are about kind of like finding like where are we lacking, like where can we improve, where can we build something great, where can we do something great, and then just giving them that and letting them run with it. They're kind of like a startup on their own. They have the freedom to decide what to do and execute on their decisions. So we also have these demo days every Friday. So teams actually, usual team leads come to the demo days, and then they actually show what they have done during that week. We sometimes have these like hack weeks where usually all these like different teams, compete with each other. When we actually, need to find a solution, something important, we'll say, okay, this is, we want to find the solution for this. Let's compete. And in the early days, we would just do like this hack hackathons for a day, but I saw that people were actually like not sleeping all night. And let's just do this properly, I said. And then we just gave it a week, and we actually created much better outcomes because of the week-long hackathons. And people actually still continue to stay all night at the last day of the hack weeks, but because they do it because it's fun to compete. Yeah,
reminds me a bit of like that final night cramming revision before your exams, but I mean, you wouldn't do it if you didn't enjoy it. So, but congrats on the structure and obviously, how it's helping Jotform scale as it is today. I want to move into the quickish fire round now, Aytekin. So, would love to know what one thing has moved the needle the most for you in your career.
I would say it's working on my side projects before. So my career as a whole is not just Jotform. I worked as a developer for 5 years, and then before that, I was a computer science student. But by doing all these like side projects, side products, I learned so much, and that knowledge helped me when I went full time on my own on my business.
What about the best advice you've ever received?
When I was in high school, I was talking with my father, and like I said, and I was really inspired by Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. And I told him, this is 1990s, and I told him that I'm gonna study computer science because I loved programming so much, and I will become rich. And, I will become a computer engineer and I will become rich. And he told me something that I didn't like it at first, but I appreciated over the years. He told me engineers don't become rich. Business people become rich. And at that time, business person didn't really excite me much. Like I was really interested in technical stuff. But as the years went on, I actually, really understand what he was talking about. Like, learning business, learning sales, marketing, customer service, all those things. When I learned them, I appreciate how important they were. And if you want to become rich, or if you want to become like this financially independent person, it's very important that you don't just work on your technical skills, but you also work on your business skills.
Very good advice there. What about biggest failure you've made and lesson learned?
I think it was around a few years into Jotform. I was the only person who was doing customer support, so I was spending like whole day doing customer support. On top of that, I was doing emails, I was doing accounting, legal, HR, ordering supplies for the office, and then on top of that, I was also helping the team develop the product. And right at this moment, something else happened. Google actually came out with a competing product. Google came out with Google Forms. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, if you are going to continue becoming successful, if you are going to if you are going to be able to compete with Google, if you want to become this successful company, I have to change something. Like I cannot just do everything. So I went to at that time it was called Odesk. I went to Upwork. I hired 9 support employees around the world. So I gave all those I was learning so much doing support, but at this point, I already learned everything I could from customers. Just gave that job to professionals, and then I started automating and delegating everything. And I learned so much about automation that last year I actually wrote the book Automate Your Busy Work. I shared my experience automating things personally in my business and as a team in our company, and how we helped our customers with automation. So all those learnings, I wrote the book Automate Your Busy Work, and it's available on bookstores. Yeah,
I'll have to go and we'll share the link on that, but look to read it at the moment. So I could definitely do with a bit more automation in my week. What about the hardest thing about being a CEO?
It's definitely the letting people go. Just, firing people. It's just, I always struggle with that. It's just, it never gets easier. So, and you sometimes have to do it. I think one thing I learned is like, if you do it early as much as possible. Like you sometimes hire the wrong people, but just don't, just because you cannot fire them, just don't wait long time. It's worse for them as well. And so it never gets easier. I think that's one of the things as a CEO, you have to learn how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I agree. What about your favorite book on business and why?
It's a creative selection by Ken Koscielny. It's a book about Apple's design process. Basically, this Ken is like he actually designed both the iPhone keyboard and the Safari browser, and he was like he wrote about all his experiences inside Apple in this book, and I learned so much from this book, and I took away so many ideas from this book and used in my company, and that's why it's my favorite book.
Awesome. Another one I haven't read, so we'll add that to the list. We've come to the end of the podcast now, Aytekin. I really appreciate you giving up your time, sharing with the SaaStock community and your lessons there in building, such an amazing business. If people wanted to reach out to you, where's the best place that they can find you online?
I have a website, aytekintank.com, my first name, last name.com. And you can actually read the first chapter of my book for free without, signing up or anything. And in my website, and just, you can also contact me. And, if you need anything, just send me fill out one of my contact forms and get in contact with me.
Awesome. And I'm assuming the contact form is a jot form.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good stuff. And I like the way you're using the freemium on the book as well. Well, Aytekin, thank you so much for being a great guest on the SaaS Revolution Show today. Really enjoyed the conversation, and we'll hopefully meet in person at some point this year.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me on this show.